Hey, don't know if you're gonna be able to see me. Let me give you a little peek. Hey, so it's Ben, and going to get Junior, Benji, and I was just thinking tomorrow's Father's Day, and I was just thinking about in Nana and Poppop, and in life in general, what it really means to be a father, to be a dad, what it should mean. You know, I've been a dad for over 20 years now, and I've had a father and a stepfather. I've had a grandfather. I actually had two grandfathers. You know, I had Stanley. Unfortunately, I didn't really know him very well, and he passed away in the 80s when I was kind of young. And I had Big Daddy. Now, Big Daddy was there until 98. So he was there for most of my formative years. He was there until I was married. He was there until I graduated high school. He was there when I was in the hospital, you know, taught me to drive, taught me what family life was all about. I mean, my stepdad did a lot of that too. He didn't help me to drive because at that point him and my mom had broken up and I had actually went to live with my grandparents. But it was lessons that I learned from both of them as fathers, as dads, granddad, dad. And I realized that as I was writing Pop-Pop and Nana and Poppop, that not all of it was me. That I was projecting who I'd like to be and some of Big Daddy onto Pop-Pop. Because Big Daddy was a loving, caring man. He was tall and statuesque. You know, he had his flaws like any man, like any person. My stepdad, my dad, Pete, he has his flaws, but he also has wonderful qualities that help form me and make me today. The point being that being a dad in a world where now they're telling you not to be a dad, that sometimes it makes you feel like there's no purpose to having a dad, that there's no purpose in being a father. You don't need a father. Because for a while before my stepdad came along, my biological father had basically abandoned me and my mother. And she had to improvise. And this was after my cancer, childhood cancer. So it was rough. But Peter came along. And they fell in love, and one thing led to another, and they were married and have a half brother, Patrick. He is my brother. I don't care if we got different fathers. We are brothers. You know, if any other man knows what I've been through, it's him. If any woman knows what I've been through, it's Nicole, Nikki, Nana. But if any man knows what I've been through, it's Patrick. So, what does it mean to be a dad? Well, Nana and Poppop, the dad is the ideal. He's the role model. He's the figure. He's what a dad should be, not what dads often, in my opinion, sometimes end up being. They end up being sad shadows of who they could be. For example, my biological father, Leslie Earl Underwood. He gave me three things. He gave me my last name. He gave me a basic understanding of how to be an electrician. me with my hands. And he taught me how to tie a tie. That's it. That's all I got from Les. I mean, I have a few odds and ends from when he was removed from my life. Let's just leave it at that. He was removed from my life. Kicked out of my life. Let's say it that way. But there was no lessons, no powerful emotional catharsis, no time for us to say, cat's in the cradle, when you coming home, son, when you coming home, dad. No. That's not who he was. I don't know what happened to him along the way, why he chose to become who he became, and if he had ever had the chance, he died alone in a parking lot. Having gotten himself clean and sober, he found a woman, living with her, working as an electrician. He lived 2 or 3 cities away from me. He didn't even know he had grandkids because, again, he was out of my life. So he died before we had any type of chance of reconciliation. Would we have reconciled? Was he interested in that? I know I wasn't at the time. Even as a Christian, even in now thinking about it, I don't know. As a Christian, I should say yes. As a Christian, as a husband, as a father, as someone who knows that everyone deserves redemption and forgiveness, I should say yes. That I would want to reconcile with him. I should want to talk to him and hear him and allow him and But the man who was there for me, the men who were there for me, Peter, my stepfather, my father, my dad, and Samuel, my grandfather, Big Daddy, they were there for me. The childhood cancer I had twisted my spine just enough to make it so that as I grew, it made my life really difficult. That's one way to put it, right? It made my life really difficult because the curvature continued to increase. It wasn't scoliosis, it was a curvature to the point where my spinal column began to curve and pinch the nerves, and I would just collapse onto the ground for no reason. And they had to do something. So they had to put me in halo traction. I have pictures if you ever want to see them. Let me know. And straighten my spine out. And then they fused it. Took a chunk of my hip, from my hip, chunk of bone, and fused it to my spine to make sure it stayed. The men who came to visit me, the men who were there for me, Peter and Samuel. Peter brought Patrick also, my brother. I have a picture with me and Patrick in the bed, my halo bed. So what does it mean to be a father? What does it mean to be a dad? What does it mean to be a granddad? What does it mean to be Poppop? I'm trying to be Poppop. I'm trying to be a modern Big Daddy. I'm trying to make those decisions, those choices that would make, that I think he would make, in the face of adversity, in the face of trials, and just, I know my stepdad, my dad Pete, he has, for as long as I can remember, been an entrepreneur and sought after ways to better his career, better, and not just stagnate in a regular 9-to-5, reinventing himself, reinventing business. And he hasn't quite found the one yet, but he keeps trying and he's staying afloat. Sometimes it's like treading water because life throws bricks at him and he has to dodge them while he's in the water, but he doesn't give up. He continues to push. And there's other problems that he has, and I'm not going to get into that because that's personal. Other personal issues that rise up that make that treading water more difficult, because it's like he's holding sandbags that make him want to make you feel like you're being pulled down while you're treading the water. Because treading water in of itself, it's not that bad. You float for a while. Maybe somebody throws you a little raft, a little life preserver. You go over to the shore, you get up, you get out. The pool drains. But when you're in there for 10 years, 20 years, nobody helps you. And instead they throw sandbags on you and it feels like you're drowning. And there's no land in sight, there's no hope in sight, there's no help in sight. And everything that's supposed to help you instead is pulling you down. I can't imagine the frustration, but he's so positive. And he looks for those good things. He's just such a loving guy. Again, not that he's perfect, but that perseverance, that determination, that's what he's taught me. And he's taught me to care about my family, to care, because he chose to be my dad. It's one thing Les didn't choose me. I remember a night when he chose not to be there for me when I was in the hospital. He chose a night of drinking and sex instead. And he didn't say that because I was young. I was really young. But I remember seeing the lady standing in the doorway and him saying that it was his special friend. Could he go, out with her for a little while and then come back? Would that be okay? And I just wanted my dad to be happy. I wanted my father, I wanted Leslie to be happy. And he said he was coming back. I didn't see him for 2 weeks. So Peter at that time was working a regular 9-to-5 job, which was killing him. But that 9-to-5 job provided insurance that I needed to get the treatments that I needed for my back. So now, throughout my life, Big Daddy, my Papa, he was my Big Daddy, but for the example of the story, let's call him Papa. My Papa. He was always a safe haven when there was, something wrong, and when he was off, he would come up and visit me, because the hospital that I had to go to for the Halo traction wasn't in Maryland, where he lived. It wasn't in Virginia, where I was living with my parents. It was in Delaware. So he would take off from work, use his vacation, use his time off, and come see me. He may not have been good at a lot of things, but he was an extraordinary man. He worked himself to the bone to provide for my grandmother, my big mama, and for me. And when it came time to retire and to move to Florida, I was already married and in high school. Married in high school. He asked if I wanted to come. We were living in Maryland, but he wanted to go to Florida so bad, and they waited till I graduated. And Patrick at this time went to live with his dad, Pete, my stepdad, my dad, and I said no, I'm gonna stay here because I had a full-time job as a manager. And my wife was there. So, no, I love you guys, and I'll come visit, but I'm going to stay here. And me and Nikki moved in with my uncle. Poppop and Nana. Me and Nana moved in with my uncle. So they moved to Florida. But, he invited me down later, and I remember that he had problems, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He had been attacked by African Americans. He was a white man. He had been attacked by African Americans, and he had developed a thick skin of racism towards African Americans because of that attack. Those attacks, multiple, because of the area that we lived in. And it was a defense mechanism. And so when he found out my girlfriend, my fiance, my wife, was a black woman, he was quiet about it. He didn't say anything. So when he moved to Florida and invited me down, I wrote him a letter. And I said, Big Daddy, I love you guys, and I want to come visit, but I'm married to Nikki. And if you want me to be a part of your life, which I do want, then she has to be a part of your life. And he wrote me back. Of course. Why wouldn't you be? That's your wife. And he only lived 4 years after he retired. Cancer took him. But again, determination, concern. He taught me to drive. He sold me his car when he bought his van. And when he passed away, Big Mama let me have his van. He was an honorable man. And being a father, being a dad, is not just about loving your children or loving your wife, the mother of your children, even if she's not your wife. It's about being honorable. It's about having integrity. It's about setting an example for them, living in such a way that they can see and know that this is the way that I should do things. That, yeah, I'm not perfect, and I don't know everything, but I'm trying. And I will be there for you as long as I can be there for you. And Big Mama and Big Daddy made that clear to me, that if me and Nikki ever needed a place, we were welcome in Florida. Because we drove down there after we found out we were welcome. We drove down, made a surprise trip. And we were welcomed with open arms. So being a dad and Nana and Poppop is about being the example. So I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't read too much, but when you look at Poppop, when you look at Dad, who was Bean's father, they exemplify, in my mind, and in reality, what fathers should be. What a good father must be to be called good. Because Big Daddy was a good father. And Bean's father in real life now is a good father. Pete, my dad, is not in the story. But if he was, yeah, he wouldn't be perfect. but he was a good father. He did the best he could in a tough situation, because my mom did not make it easy and my health did not make it easy. And at that time he was ready to try and become an entrepreneur. He got out of the 9 to 5 because my health was under control. My mom had got a 9 to 5 and had the health insurance, so he was ready to do the entrepreneur. But something happened, so not his fault. I would never blame him for that. But he did his best. He continues to do his best, and I am so proud of him for that. And I'm just hoping and praying for that time when he does find that right one, because there's so many things out there that you just wonder, well, who thought of this? Who set up this business model? And it's got to be somebody. And families, who was the cornerstone of this family? Who taught this person to love this way? To lead this way? Well, if you ever meet me and you wonder who taught me to be the type of father that I am, the mistakes that I made, they're my own. The bad choices, those are mine. But the good things that I do, before I came to Christ, any good that was in me was because of Peter and Samuel. The good after is a combination of Samuel, Peter, and Jesus, because he takes that and adds to it. The Lord adds to their good work, to their determination, to their love, to their and anything they were missing. Because again, they're not perfect, but they were good men. They are. Well, Peter is a good man. So in any way that he might not have hit the mark, or had a little flaw here or there, Jesus fills it in. So when you look at your dad, don't judge him too harshly, because you don't know who his example was. So that's something that has helped me in my looking at less. I didn't know Stanley, my grandfather on his side. Don't know what he was like. I heard he was a drinker, and that it was a rough childhood. But I do love my dad, Pete, and I do miss Big Daddy. So if you got any questions about that, or you want any advice on fatherhood, hit me up. Hope you guys have a great Father's Day weekend and a great summer. Thanks so much for watching and participating. Y'all have a great one. Talk to you soon.